Welcome back. Welcome to a new anime review series. This is my review of the series Black Butler. This is part one of about, I'd say, 7 or 8 videos. This one I'm reviewing the very first season of the show and its season's OVA. The first season, now this show lasted for 3 seasons so far. It's had at least 3 seasons. Let's see, what else? Oh yeah, it's had about 8 OVAs, an animated film, and a live action film, that will be my final video related to this series. The only other time I do anything with this series is basically is if like a new chapter comes out for the manga. Now, Black Butler, the manga was released back in 2006, and in 12 years, the book is only published 146 chapters. Like 146 chapters, 12 years. That is not enough usually for a manga. Like, is it a weekly manga series? No, it's a monthly manga series. And for a monthly manga, this is by far the longest I've actually for a monthly manga series, because the title, which had that last particular distinction, was Soul Eater at 113 chapters. This one surpassed it tremendously. The series is written by a person named Yana Tabasho, and it's a woman. Yep, which makes this the third anime I've watched where the manga was originally written by a woman. Yeah, the third one I've seen. Actually, yeah, the third one I've done a review for, but the fourth one I actually have, because the only other series I have watched where the manga is based on the manga written by a woman, there has been Sailor Moon Crystal. Of course, the original Sailor Moon, I always count that. This series, D. Gray Man, and Inuyasha. Yep. Now, for the first season of the show, they only adapt the first 3 arcs. Because here's the thing about season 1. About most of it is filler. Yes, there is at least, out of 24 episodes, there is exactly like, I think it's like a good 14 of these episodes are filler. Yes. The only reason why I think that they had the filler stuff was because the fact that they're just trying to drag on the series up as long as they want to. Yeah. And here's the thing about these arcs. The first arc, which is called the Black Butler arc, this one was basically 5 chapters in the manga, which took up basically a book in like a quarter. And in the anime, this was a good 3 episodes. Not bad. I don't have a really big problem with it. Excuse me. The second arc, which is called the Red Butler arc, this one took up episodes 4 through 6. In the manga, this took up chapters 6 to 14. But 14 was never adapted. I have no idea why. Yep. Then we have the Houndsworth arc, which is simply put the show's version of the Hound of Baskervilles. I'm not kidding, it seriously is. Then we have States of Hope, which is actually the second filler arc for the series. And then we have the Indian Butler arc, which does not finish adapting its arc either. Yeah. For some reason, I have no idea. Only about 2 of the arcs of the entire the series only adapted, like overall the anime, like from the 3 seasons, the OVAs and the film. They only adapted the first 6 arcs. The manga is currently on its 9th arc, and it's been going on now for 39 chapters. And later, I'll explain what's been going on since the 6th arc. Yep. The Indian Butler arc was only 3 episodes. Even in the manga, it was a good, like 9 chapters. Yep, and then pretty much after that, the rest of the season is nothing but filler. Yes. Now, what's the plot of Black Butler? Pretty much, the main character is Sebastian Michaels, who in the English dub is voiced by Jay Turnham. It's the same guy who voiced Colonel Colonel Roy Mustang of the guy from Full Alchemist Brotherhood. That's who voices him. He is the butler For a 13-year-old, originally was 12 when the series started, and now he's 13. Named Cecil Phantom Hive. The Phantom Hives are known for being, well, very wealthy and being the Queen's watchdog. That is simply put his job, and also help the police interact with him. Now, the actor who voices Sebastian Michaels, he's voiced by J. Michael Turnham. Yep. Cecile is voiced by Brina Pacilia. She's noteworthy from the Hunter x Hunter series, voicing Killua, the character who is an assassin. Mm-hmm. And these are people who's actually there's like 4 people in the well, they actually have this in the anime, though they add a 5th person later. There's like 4 people part of the staff aside from Sebastian. You have Bowderoy, who is the cook of the group. He is voiced by one of my favorite dub actors, Ian Sinclair. Mm-hmm. He does a really good job voicing him. Then we have Finian, who is the gardener, who, get this. Now, the thing about these three, the 3 people who are constantly seen, the chef is a former soldier, the gardener was a survivor of a super soldier experiment, and the maid is a sniper. That's not a joke. The maid her name is Mel Ray. She's voiced by Monica Reel. Yes. Yeah, she's noteworthy for voicing characters like, let's see if I can find him here. Tabatsky from Soul Eater, Mara Jade from Fairy Tail, Yuriki from Rosario Plus Vampire, and these are the stuff I've watched. Rise from the woman who started the whole thing with Tokyo Ghoul, yeah, she voices her. Let's see. Teru Asaya, I think that's the... Yeah, it's Froppy. Yeah, she's the voice of Froppy from My Hero Academia. In Super, she's the current actress for Bulma. Mm-hmm. Replacing the original for some reason. I have no idea why. Excuse me. That's it. That's who she voices. Yep. Finny is voiced by an actor named Jason Labrica. I'm not all that familiar with the guy's work. I'm looking for the guy right now. Yeah, he voiced Rob Lucci from One Piece. Lavi and the Millennium Earl from D. Gray Man. Yeah, it's weird though. You have a guy who voices 2 completely different characters. In Super, he voices Choppa. In the Attack on Titan series, he voices the Beast Titan. Yep, so a few characters. Mm-hmm. There is the former Butler, Tonka, who's voiced by R. Bruce Elliott. Yeah, this guy, those who fans of Fairy Tail, this is the guy who voiced Makarov. In One Piece, he voiced Whitebeard. Yeah, the thing about this guy is he's noteworthy voicing older men. Heck, he even voices Don Praxis from Attack on Titan. Yeah. And of course, there's others. We also have the character Elizabeth. Yep. She is, in fact, Caesar's fiance. And she's 13. She's voiced by Karma Lee. Noteworthy for voicing Lucy from Fairy Tail. Yep, the same person. There's a few other characters. One, of course, is Madame Red, who is voiced by Linda McKay. Madame Red was Cecil's aunt. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's been in a few series. I have watched voice Vanessa from Black Clover. In Fairy Tail, it's Altair. Mm-hmm. In Fullmetal's Brotherhood, she voiced the mother of the main character of the series. She was also in High School DxD Born, a season that both the people who actually like the series and the writer doesn't like it at all. Nope. Soul Eater, she was in like 1 episode for that. Yep. Now, Colleen Clickenbeard is in this series, and she voices an angel from a filler arc. Yeah, she's a filler character, and she first shows up in episode 7, and she still constantly shows up throughout the rest of season 1 before she's ultimately killed off by Sebastian in the final episode of the season. Yeah, the thing about her character is, Apparently, her character has got two genders. She's a male and female character. Yeah, they reveal this in a very awkward way. We have this bodyguard for the Queen of England, Queen Victoria, who was very villainous for some reason. I have no idea why in the world they changed her character for the anime, where she's like this. But as for the arcs themselves, the first arc of the series just introduces the characters. It introduces the main four people of the staff: Sebastian, the main character, Sebastian, Cecile, Elizabeth, adorable little girl, by the way. Excuse me. He also introduces Lau, his his thing with women flaunting over him. A guy who only appears as one arc only. He was part of the Aristocrats of Evil. The Aristocrats of Evil is just basically a group of socialites who just a group of people and group of nobles who actually just sort of have good conversations with each other. Yeah, one thing I should know about Madame Red, despite the fact being Cecil's aunt, she's a smoking hot woman. Yeah, she is. She was also revealed to be the person behind the stuff in the second arc of the series, Red Butler arc, which introduced another character, her butler, who turned out to be a freaking Grim Reaper. That's not a joke, that seriously happened. Yeah. In the first arc, Cecil got kidnapped, got rescued by Sebastian. And of course, the first arc also introduced the famous the mark that he has on under his eye. Now, how in the world they explain how Cecil got Sebastian is quite unusual, actually. You see, in the manga, they explain this also really well. They explain this pretty much the same way. Yeah, Cecil made a contract with Sebastian to get revenge, to ask him for his revenge against people who hurt him and who also killed his parents. In exchange for helping him in becoming a servant, he gets to consume his soul once his revenge is complete. I will talk about that in a minute. Particularly a very odd thing. As far as I know, nobody else in the show knows about the contract. They just know for a fact that Cecil's got a butler, and he's a damn good one too. Yep. He can defend himself really well. Plus, the guy is a good ladies' man too. I'll talk about his filler stuff in a minute. Yep. Yeah, and of course the guy who now they take out the first two members of Aristocrats, even like the other guy who was just the guy who once kidnapped Cecil for money, and Sebastian rescues him pretty easily and takes out like all the guy's men, like within a matter of minutes. And also they get there. He gets there via. He finds out about the whole stuff via car phone, though it's the 1900 equivalent of it. Yeah, and then when they introduce the Grim Reaper in the second arc, which is a guy who acts like a woman, his Grim Reap, his scythe, it's a freaking chainsaw. When I first saw this thing, I'm like, really? It's 19th century and there's a chain and the character has a chainsaw. Yeah, it's particularly very bizarre. Also, after this arc, this guy doesn't get his chainsaw back until toward the end of the first season. Yeah, the rest of the season after this, the rest of the time he actually does still make appearances, despite the fact in the manga. After the Red Butler arc, he disappeared. Never to be seen. He never showed up again until a later arc, the arc that was adapted into the animated film, Book of the Atlantic. Yeah, the cruise ship arc, as I call it. Though they have a different name for the manga, I call it the cruise ship arc because it's basically Cecile and the Mempfords on a cruise ship going to New York. And it's a big turning point in the series. Yep. Yeah. And the whole thing with Madame Red, why she did the stuff she did in the second arc, yeah, she apparently lost her husband, lost her child, and apparently, in order to save her life, a doctor took away her ability to have children. No idea why. 1900 medicine for you. Yep. Now those of you curious still, like, why in the world Cecile and Elizabeth are engaged at a very early age? Arranged marriage. And here's the thing. They don't mention this in the show at all, but Cecile and Elizabeth are cousins. Why rather be like, okay, I perfectly understand why the reason why they did this noble thing, and it's the British. They love doing this whole thing to marry each other's cousins. Well, the nobility, anyways. I don't think any regular citizen actually does this. It's mostly the nobility does this. I'm not sure if they do it currently, but they probably did this in the past. Because this is the British. I'm not all that surprised that they did this. So not surprising. Yeah. And let's see what else. After the second arc, the series goes on a series of fillers. It goes on at least 2 filler arcs. But what happens in the manga, like Raft and Red Butler arc finishes up, is that we have Cecile's birthday. And on his birthday, we have his fiance and his future mother-in-law, his Aunt Frances, show up. Yes. And he's very worried about making his Aunt Frances angry, so he basically has Sebastian clean up the pace really quickly. And of course, you have this whole thing of going on a hunting trip and Cecile saving Elizabeth from a bear, which Frances, that's her name, Frances. She's very grateful Cecile actually did that. This one makes Cecile sort of a cold person. He's not that cold to Elizabeth. He's probably the only person he's not that cold to, anyways. He treats her with a good amount of respect, though the stuff she does has been annoying. And she loves spending time with him. Yep. Yeah, then pretty much like the next arc in the manga was the Indian Butler arc, but in the anime we have the stuff with the filler. The Housebook arc is the introduction to the character Angela, who was later to be an angel, and she first started as a maid to Lord Barrymore. This is also the same guy from that was referenced in the Sir Arthur Conan Doyle Sherlock Holmes story, The Hound of Baskervilles. Same guy. Though in that story he died in mysterious circumstances. I highly doubt he was murdered by a demon hound. Yeah, I highly doubt that. My guess is they probably took the concept of Hound of Baskervilles and put Cecile, Sebastian, and the staff and Tonka. Well, actually, Tonka they actually live at the house, but they took these characters and made them pretty much like took the place of Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson. And of course, for the manga himself, they actually decided to keep him, and he stays with them from once the arc is finished. He stays with them for pretty much the rest of the season, and he even shows up in the OVA. Though after the first season is finished, the Demon Hound is never seen again in the series. What happens to him? I'll explain that a little bit later. Yes. After completion of that arc, of course, it's very heavily implied that Finney is actually up with Angela. Yeah, this particular thing doesn't go any place in the anime. As a matter of fact, like after this arc, Finney does not see Angela ever again in the series. The following arc that comes right after this one is basically the Seeds of Hope arc, which is the whole thing of the Thames being frozen. Oh, and also the whole thing with the Red Butler arc. This is the show's interpretation of what happened with Jack the Ripper. One of the many fictional interpretations is basically how they interpret Jack the Ripper. So this time it was 2 people, where the Grim Reaper, where despite the fact that with Madame Red doing these crimes, this Grim Reaper was helping her. Yeah, and of course they have his boss show up, who has a garden tool as a scythe to sort of get him under control. Yeah, and of course Sebastian throws back the Griffith's scythe at him. He says, "I bet you want this back." And he says, "Yes, thank you." And he just drops it right on the guy he's dragging by the coat. By the way, I should point out though, Griffith actually stole his coat off the corpse of Madame Red, a woman he actually killed right in front of her nephew. Yep. By the way, does Sebastian get revenge for the death of his aunt? Nope. Never does, because at times he's forced to cooperate with him despite the fact he hates this guy for killing his closest living blood relative. Yep. The Seeds of Hope arc pretty much is just a setup for the filler arc that comes right after the Indian Butler arc. Yeah, that's simply all this is. The whole thing with the doll stuff and Elizabeth being kidnapped. Yeah, one of 2 times in the season she's actually kept in peril. I like it that the fact she shows up in the filler episodes because she's quite a good character. I like her character. I don't like how she's written in the current arc where she's being very stubborn, and she's turning against Cecile very quickly because the other Cecile showed up. I know I'm kind of spoiling that little other Cecile thing, but that'll be explained in a later video when I get a chance to talk about what's going on in the manga right now. Yeah. And it meant the reason why I think that they had this whole arc is to explain Cecile's ring. And it's explained to show that Cecile's special blue ring, which was smashed by Elizabeth in the end of in her debut episode. This one, it looked like Cecile was going to hit her. Sebastian stops her, and he, as far as I know, this is the only time he's ever tried to hit Elizabeth, who he also calls casually Lizzie. She asked him to call him that. And of course, everybody else in the show calls her Lady Elizabeth. Makes sense. She's a noble, so call her that. Everyone calls Cecile young master. They call him master or young lord. Yeah, they did the same thing in the manga, so I'm not really that surprised. Oh yeah, and what does Gil call Sebastian? In the anime, he calls him Bassi because he's gay for him. For some reason. Yeah, it's really weird and a bit bizarre, to say the least. Also, he shows up in the Seeds of Hope arc. Yeah, he shows up for this one, and he shows up pretty much in the filler episodes. He doesn't show up in canon stuff for quite a while. The Indian Butler one. This is one they introduced the Indian Butler, which is if I can find him here. Yeah, we have the prince, a prince from Bongo, which is an actual country near India. Yeah, he's voiced by Christopher Ayers. Angie is voiced by one of my favorite dub actors, Patrick Stultz, who is quite unusual of a character. Yeah. Yeah, the whole story with the whole Indian Butler thing, there's these various nobles who are basically stripped down to underwear and hung upside down and have these silly notes on there. And mostly this arc is presented pretty much exactly the same way it was presented in the manga. The only change was the ending for it and what they did with Queen Victoria. In the manga, Queen Victoria, when she actually does talk to Cecile. In the anime, she has no lines. The first time she speaks a word in the anime is not until the final arc of the first season of the show. And she's constantly under a veil, which is not what she was doing in the manga. Oh no, she actually talked to Cecile, referred to as my boy, and Cecile was like, don't call me that in public. She doesn't like all that. The whole thing, the curry thing, yeah, it presents very smoothly in the manga. In the anime, it's kind of like Angela shows up and gives a strange substance to one of the chefs making curry. Everyone goes nuts. And how everybody's cured is by everybody having Sebastian's curry. Yeah. That is how they take him out. They also do something with some of the Hindu mythology. They mention that in here as well. It's a quite interesting arc, but here's kind of the thing. After they adapt episode 22, they don't adapt episode 23. They loosely adapt it in season 3. Which I'll get to that in a later video. Now, as for the last couple arcs of the season, we have the last few arcs. The episode 16 is the Haunted Castle arc. This one is just Sebastian and Cecile encountering the ghost of King Edward V and his brother. I've heard about the story about this, where King Edward V and his brother were trapped in the Tower of London and are mysteriously killed. And then their bones were discovered 200 years later. These two characters are ghosts, and they try to figure out a way to have these people sort of pass the afterlife. And of course, Sebastian becomes their butler for a brief few days. And the reason why that Cecile came there was to transform the castle into a resort, into a hotel. Yep. It's not a little arc, but it's not a little episode, but it's pure fun. The Books of Doomsday one, which actually this kind of sets up the final arc of the season. This two-parter. We have Cecile and Also, the demon dog does show up in the Indian Butler arc. He shows up briefly, and he's never seen again. In the case this arc, this one is quite funny, where the whole thing about Books of Doom, they eventually visit the cult, which it's actually a connection to the Seeds of Hope arc. It's loose follow because they kind of set it up there in this one too, and they investigate the cult and they run into one of their nuns, and Sebastian does something quite unusual with his nun. And by the way, this is not the only time he does this. He also does something very similar to this in the manga. He takes this woman to a barn, and of course the Grim Reaper guy, he's there too, obviously. Sitting outside with Cecile, what is Sebastian do to this woman? He has sex with her in a barn. I'm not kidding. And this apparently protects her from being her body being altered by Angela later. It's quite unusual, especially hearing all the moaning. Like, guys, just like, really? We're doing this now? It's so funny. The only reason I know these two had sex is because of how the position she was in. You have her legs up in the air, you have Sebastian between them, and looks like her top is off, and later on she's putting her clothes back on. Yeah, Sebastian had sex with this woman. Just for information. Yeah. Simply put, this is what they call in fiction a guy pumping a woman for information. Well, sometimes a guy doing another guy, but this is not through sex. They do this through drinking. For a guy with a woman, this is probably the only way they can do it. Yeah. They, of course, do take on Angela. Of course, also Cecile is taken by Angela to this other place. They don't know what it is. Not until Sebastian and the other guy get to where this place is. What is this place? The Grim Reaper Library. And the guy who was Grouz's boss, he's like, what are you doing? He even attacks him. It's like, yeah, Cosmo was like a third player, basically. The Angel, so he's had to briefly team up. They kind of take her on. Of course, she goes back to the church, and of course, the Undertaker is there. Yeah, this is a character called the Undertaker. Yep, he's a quite unusual character. Apparently, he was a Grim Reaper. Yeah, he was in fact a Grim Reaper. Let's see if I can find him here. Yeah, in the case of Lau, he is something else altogether. I would have thought maybe he'd be good enough if voiced by Tyler Picard. Okay, the Undertaker is voiced by John Swansea. Yeah, this guy is noteworthy for voicing Sir Crocodile from One Piece. He also voiced a character on Tekken named Bowles. And yes, those of you familiar with this character from My Hero Academia, All for One, same guy. Though he has different style of voice with this character. They're a bit raspy. He's got like a stitch in his face. He first showed up in the Red Butler arc. Yeah, he shows up a few times. He even shows up in a lot of filler episodes, which is kind of nice. Mention he's a legend. They don't mention himself with the Grim Reaper stuff, not until much later. Yeah. Then of course we have it where, like in the Books of Doom arc, where they have the Undertaker basically right in this particular book of Doom with a bookmark, just altering stuff, like if Sebastian pop up at the church and the Grim Reaper show up, and of course they stop Angela, and they save the cultists from being destroyed. Yeah, and because of this nun having sex with Sebastian, she notices his senses that she's tainted by a demon, so she's protected from Angela's stuff. I think for Sebastian, this was unintended side effect of this woman having sex with him. Yeah, this was just unintended side effect. Yeah, and then of course the following stuff with the following arc is just, well, investigating stuff with the Queen, her being involved with the death of Cecil's parents, and what they did with her was quite bizarre. Yeah, Angela, who apparently was merged with another guy. Yeah, how they do this is quite bizarre. They have it where she's young, and Apparently, she was so grief-stricken over the death of her husband, Prince Albert. Angela merged Albert's dead corpse with Queen Victoria's body. I know for a fact, I look up my Queen Victoria, this never happened in real life, and this never happened in the manga. As for why in the world they altered this for the anime, no idea. They probably want to make this woman who in real life was nothing like this at all. She was not an evil woman. She was a quite nice one from what I've read about her. And a lot of people had a lot of respect for her back then. Here in the show, she's a villain for like no reason at all, just because they wanted a villain. Like, oh, we gotta make a big villain for this show. I know, let's make Queen Victoria the main villain for no reason at all. Yeah, and then after she dies, because of the side effect of being merged with her dead husband's corpse, she gets placed by a stand who acts more like the manga version than her actual counterpart did. She even looks like her too. Angela herself is killed by Sebastian in his true demon form, and the season ends with Sebastian looking like he's good because he apparently fulfilled his revenge, revealed the revenge of Cecile by taking out the person responsible for his parents' deaths, starts to consume his soul, and that's where the season ends. Yep. Of course, there's stuff going on in Paris, and it's still trying to get back home. It's a quite interesting little arc to close the season. The OVA is just the characters putting on a play. That is simply all it is. Just them putting on a play. Yeah. I should point out, though, they have it where every single episode has a title of His Butler, comma, whatever. Yeah, and as for the conspiracy arc, we have this thing of Sebastian and Cecile accused of something to commit, and this supposedly led to the end of Lau and his assassin fleeing, and then you're thinking, oh, they never show up again? They show up in the OVA, and they're in the current season, no problem at all. And they also kill off a character who never died in the manga, Inspector Abernathy. As for why they killed him off in the filler episode, no idea. My guess is that the studio who made the series was worried they were going to lose the rights. Who made this series? A1 Pictures. Yes, A1 Pictures. Who was A1 Pictures? They are the company who made Fairy Tail, Seven Deadly Sins, and the first season of Black Clover. Of course, this show, and oh yeah, they also did the first season of Ace Attorney. So a few shows that they've done. The OVA is just the characters putting out play, and most of the staff of the pretty much it's like they throw like every single character who was not killed off. Like they have all the main, like every single character who appeared in season 1 appeared in this OVA. I even liked it that Lau's assassin took part in this play, where she played a seaweed, and the kids loved it. Yeah, I thought that was so funny. Yep. The season was good. I didn't care for the ending at all. It felt like, though, with the ending of the first season, they could have been like, oh, is that the end of the anime? Nope. It is not. It is not the end of the anime. Oh god, no, it's not the end of the anime. Because the anime resumes, like, as soon as the first season ends. Yeah, as soon as the first season ends, the second season does not start until the following year. My guess is the reason why they were able to do a second season is because the season probably got good ratings and it probably sold really well on DVD. So that's probably what happened when it came to this particular show itself. And this season was good, except that the filler stuff I liked overall. The only thing I did not like about the filler, turning Queen Victoria to a villain and killing off a character who in the manga is still very much alive and has facial hair now. And also setting up a romance that goes nowhere. Yeah. The whole thing with Angela and Finn, it's set up for a good potential romance, but it goes nowhere. It's like after the last time they see each other in the second filler arc of the anime, in the what's the name of the thing again? It's the Houndsworth arc. Yeah, after this arc, Angela and Finn never see each other ever again in the anime. Nope, they never do. It's kind of like in the case of Lao. I think the reason why they kind of they kind of basically ignored the end of the season. Here's my theory. The reason why is probably because people didn't like the ending to the season, but they enjoyed the season overall. It's just that the end of the season was kind of weak. It's okay. You kill off the main villain of the season, and it's like, what can you do next? Oh yeah, in case you're wondering, when does the series resume depth in the manga? Not until season 3. Which the third season has not come for like 3 years. I'm not kidding about this. Yeah, it doesn't come for release for 3 years. Oh yeah, and the last thing that was released for this series was actually the film, the anime film, which came out last year in January, and that was the last thing they released for the series. I'm going to review that at a later date. But yeah, that's it for this particular review. Stay tuned for my review of Fairy Tail, which features some people who worked on this series as well in that one. Maybe like 1 or 2 people. Yeah. Angela I thought was a good villain. A good character. I thought it was odd though they turned her a villain. I mean, I liked the whole thing with the maid stuff. Bluto, I didn't like the fact. It's like in the case of the final 2 episodes, like, okay, we kill off a character from the manga who does not die. We have Lao turning against Cecile for no reason at all. We kill off Queen Victoria, and of course we first turn her a villain, and then we kill her off, and then we kill off an interesting character like Angela in the final episode. Yeah, it's kind of like, oh yeah, and killing off Bluto. No idea why they killed him off. Oh yeah, I forgot. He's not in the manga. So kill him off despite the fact that I'm sure any little kid probably watched this show like, hey, I love this demon hound. And then when they see him die, like, no, don't kill off the dog. We love the dog. Yeah, killing off dog characters is always a terrible idea because it always just turns out really bad. Yeah, but the only reason why I think they killed him off in the first season is because he's not in the manga. That's the only reason I think of. As for killing off Inspector Abernathy, that's... I don't really know why they killed him off for. Especially since he's still alive now in the manga. Yeah, so that's it for this particular review. Stay tuned for my review of the newest dub episode release for Fairy Tail. But that's the only video I plan to do for today, okay? But to see you next review. Bye.